Thanks for tuning in. This card is for the 27th of April 2024. It is a card for the collective. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are located, and what zodiac are you, what gender, doesn't matter. As far as the date is right for you, then there'll be something that you can get out of this card that will be beneficial. King of Swords energy is about the intellectual. It is about actions taken by logical reasons. When this card appears, it reminds us that today we have to make use of our intelligence to make logical decisions towards something. Because it is a sword card, then it is about thinking and the mind. In this case, we have to ask ourselves, what is being logical for our situation? It is different for everybody. It can be different for everybody. Because everybody has their own logical sense, while the other would think something as non-logical, it might be actually logical to our situation and our mentality. So there is no single way to achieve a collective logical action. It depends from person to person. So it is important to ask ourselves what is logical to us and our situation. When it is a king card, the king is about taking actions, and the king has the authority to take actions, which means there are circumstances today that we can utilize our own authority to take action upon our unique situation, which is actually a good thing. But on the other hand, it can mean that we will encounter people who are very logical minded, and they will put the reasons ahead of emotions. Maybe deep inside them can be different, but at least outwardly they will present this as their appearance. So for some people, maybe you're dealing with a situation where you have to be very analytical. Maybe all the discussions are very analytical, and based on the mutual respect on about their logical thinking and also about your logical thinking. It is essential to remind ourselves that we all have different standards and different kind of logic. So if it is involving a partnership, please remember that even though there are differences, we can strive for a common ground where both sides' logic can be met at a middle point. Some people might consider traveling today, because as you see, there are some birds behind, even though they don't really look like birds, but they are birds. So some people might consider flying today, which can be a good thing because the process of flying involves a lot of air energy. The air energy is represented and is aligned with the sword energy. So this can be beneficial. But of course, as always, um, consider your own situation and capability before flying. Some people, they might need to consider logically whether they can continue to fly or not, because flying involves a lot of air energy, and air energy can be related to blood circulation and the breathing of air, the lung capacity. So for some people, in regards to health, there might be concerns about respiratory system and also blood circulation, especially if these people have to travel frequently or may be planning to travel in the coming future. If you have any health circumstances that you worry about and you have to take a flight today, make sure that you keep the blood circulation good, and also make sure your breathing is good. It depends from person to person. Some people, they for instance, they have surgeries with their nose, or maybe in regards to their respiratory system. So for these people, well, it depends on medical advice from doctors. You might consider wearing a mask when you're flying in order to keep the humidity keep the humidity level balanced in regards to your respiratory system. Sorry, I don't have enough sleep, so I have to. I'm kind of. Anyway, yeah. So and the blood circulation. And today is also a day where there might be situations where we were feeling up in the air in the recent weeks, and that was because the timing wasn't really right for us to make logical decisions. Maybe we didn't have enough information to take actions before, but now at least we can have some kind of mental clarity to move beyond the situation. Because this is a minor arcana, so I believe that the steps we're gonna take is gonna be maybe not enormous, but at least it will lead to something bigger. Because if we are talking about really major thing in life, major events, we usually will see major arcana. But because this is the minor arcana, so I would say we will take probably minor logical decisions today, and the energy of today is also supportive for us to do so. But life-changing decisions, I'm not sure whether today will be the right timing, because as I mentioned before, Mercury is still in the shadow period. So if you have to make decisions, if you really need to sign on dotted line, which is okay as far as we are prepared. For instance, you have to buy something. Make sure you keep the receipts. If you need to rent a car or rent a place, maybe it is better to not make it a very long-term thing, because in the coming weeks things will change also. But there will be also other scenarios, such as probably initially you made this decision, but it plays out in a way that some of the details, they will change in the coming weeks. So as far as you are flexible and understand the need to be flexible, then you can still pursue what you want to pursue, as far as you don't set yourself in a very fixed mentality and having the expectations that everything's gonna be fixed and nothing's gonna change. No, things will change, but there's also it is also necessary for us to actually move beyond without too much fear. You see, fear can be helpful, but overly fear can just block us from any kind of progress, right? So when you know the consequences, when you know, okay, you have to be flexible in the coming weeks, then you will always be secured. Whatever thing's gonna come up, but as I always say, be aware of the details. Be considering your own circumstances, your unique circumstances, so you can bear the consequence when you make the decision. King of Swords energy, as I mentioned, it is a day where our intellectual energy will be prominent. But at the same time, on the negative side, we have to ask ourselves if we are doing things in an overly intelligent manner. So for different people, there can be different situation. For example, if you are an emotional person, usually emotional, then today probably it can gives you the balance to gain some kind of clarity and make some kind of decision that is in a relatively balanced way, so you can be less emotional in the future. Because when people get emotional, usually it is because things are not going right for them. And sometimes when we're overly emotional, we're gonna make some bad decisions, and then that will create an even further, even more emotional future, right? So today, it can be served as a balancing energy for people who are generally emotional. But on the other hand, for people who are already very intelligent and let me put it this way. No, I should say who are intellectual oriented, because I believe that we are all intelligent. We are just intelligent in different ways, right? So everybody can be intelligent. But for people who are always intellectual, this day, it can be a day that you can even further advancing your intellectual mind and actions, which can be beneficial because it is your energy and it aligns with your energy. But there is always a downside, which is if you're dealing with people who are less intellectual oriented, then this will be a reminder for you to consider how the others would feel about your actions and your behaviors and your decisions. Because this is part of being intellectual. Because being intellectual includes considering the emotional nature of the others, so that will create a logical outcome for your actions. Because purely over intellectual without considering the emotional side of human beings or animals or circumstances in general can be kind of not intellectual enough, if you know what I mean. So, yeah. So, even though the card is a sword card, it doesn't mean we have to ignore the other elements of life. On the contrary, it might be a crucial time for us to think about our actions, whether we are doing things really in a logical and intellectual way. And the most intellectual way is to be able to consider all elements in life, right? There are all kinds of elements, crazy elements, emotional elements, intellectual elements. So yeah. So in this picture, you can also see the clouds behind where this King of Swords sits. So cloud means something is up in the air, and because we don't see the rain, in this case, some things are incubating. Some things are already forming, but they are not ready to be released yet. So I believe that some of you will take actions to further manifesting your plan. But at the same time, please be aware of the possibility of the weather changes, because, well, I actually did the food supply read for the collective in the past few days, and I know that the weather will change, and the water element will be kind of not very stable at some point in the coming months. So if you are dealing with something that is related to rain, water, please be aware. Be aware that the weather prediction or your general the way you predict the weather and work with weather, it has to be flexible enough, and it's better to plan for the unexpected. Let's say if the weather report is telling you that today it's not gonna rain, and it turns out it can be raining, so something like that can happen. But I intuitively think it is more like more related to the long-term planning, because you might plan something. For instance, you might plan some kind of activities and actions that are related to water, that are related to raining. Well, what if that day it doesn't rain? Then it's better to have a backup plan. In regards to some kind of fluid situation, I mean the water situation, because I kind of feel like I have a weird feeling about the seafood industry, and any kind of industries related to the water and liquid. I feel like something is up. So I don't know what kind of industries you work in, but if it is related to water and related to rainfall, then I would advise you to probably do more research about possible situations. I believe that even though maybe not everything I predict is right, but at least if you prepare for the unpredictable, then it will always be your advantage, no matter what. Yeah. And also be aware of some of the plants you have. As you can see the trees in this picture, they are pretty dried out. So if you have plants, you have trees, please make sure you water them and they have enough water to survive. Some of you might consider replacing your knife. You may ask yourself, am I having the right knife to cut through the food that we prepare? So basically, we have to ask ourselves, do we have the tool we need to cut through obstacles in general? It's not only about the knife. It can be a scissor. It can be the tools that we use to remove our obstacles. Is it sharp enough? Well, it can also be our mental capabilities. Do we have a mental state that is sharp enough to tackle all the issues and problems that we have to tackle? If the answer is no, what can create that environment for our mental state? Do we have enough sleep to be mentally capable? Do we have enough food? What are we eating? What are we consuming? What is your configuration of the body? Because everybody consumes food in a different way. And do you know why it is important to understand? Because what we eat will actually lead to a certain mental state. So, and everybody has a different response to different kinds of food. So it is a good day to look into our body check. If you have blood work done, that is even easier. Find out if you have high cholesterol or whatever conditions that can show up in your lab report. Do you have enough calcium? Do you have enough vitamins? So today is a good day to figure out those kind of details and then make some kind of changes. And then you probably will see a difference in the coming future when you make the changes in regards to your diets and your nutrients, your consumptions. Because sometimes people who feel like they're too emotional to make changes and make decisions in regards to their life, it does not always reflect a mental state. Sometimes it can be related to the lack of nutrients, like what maybe they're not aware of what they are lacking in their food, so that they don't have enough of a particular elements that can support their brain function. So so I believe that this is a good day to tackle our diet, make sure that we're eating fine, and after the meal, after the dinner, we should be feeling like, okay, if we're eating the right thing, we will be able to see through some of the obstacles and then take actions upon them. Today is also a day to think about what are the obstructions that prevent us to intellectually make decisions in our lives? If it is about something emotional, then dealing with those emotional issues is part of being intellectual. And maybe you would consider alternative healing. Maybe you're gonna consider finding a counselor to talk about stuff, or a social worker to discuss your situation. But I would say the more intellectual approach, the better, especially for this day. So, yeah, we have to ask ourselves what makes sense for us today. Maybe some of you are in situations where you are not always aware that things are not making sense to you. But today, there might be moments that suddenly you get a eureka moment, and then you recognize that, hey, it doesn't make sense to me. Why am I in this situation for so long? Then you can make the change. You can consider removing yourself from the situation. Even though I know it's gonna take time, and I think it's not gonna be immediate, but at least today you can gain the awareness of the problem, and to really think about things. Think things through. Timing is also everything. If you figure that, if you have a feeling that you have a different sense of clarity in comparing to your usual self, then I encourage you to not let go of this timing. Even though it doesn't seem normal to you, because you don't usually think in such a way, but it can be the emergency exit for you somehow. And I'm saying this to the people who might be in a very long time situation where their mind is very trapped. And today it's possible for you to turn things around on a mental level. Even though I don't encourage hasty actions, but sometimes, because timing is everything, maybe we don't need to act hasty, but on a mental level, there might be times that we need to cut through all the nonsense and then get to the bottom of the matter. And when you get to the bottom of the matter, remember that clarity you have gained. Even though after today you might be confused, or you might be falling into the trap again, but as you can remember today the mental clarity you have gained, at some point in the future, you can cultivate this awareness again when the timing is right. So I encourage you to type it out, write it down, whatever things you need to do to remember that. I understand that there are many people who are being trapped in a situation or environment, and it takes baby steps, and we have to be patient with the situation and ourselves. So, but I encourage you not to let go of this eureka moment, even though it might feel painful to you to even think in a way that is logical. But maybe that is something that is essential for your success and for your well-being. Um, yeah, you might not need to act immediately, but at least remember that sensation. Remember that time you you have a glimpse or have 1 second that you feel like things can be different if you think differently in a different way. Um, I don't think everyone can immediately take action upon things, but at least you can remember that thought, write it down, type it out. Someday, somehow, when the times is better, it will come back into your vision, and then you will probably have the guts and be ready to probably let go of a situation. And for some people, today might be a day that you look into some kind of historical findings about animals. We see some butterflies at the back of this person, but they are already crucified, right? I think I got the right word. Yeah, like they are historical. They turned historic. So yeah, some people might tap into the history of animals, biology, and I think some people might even tap into the creating the sculptures, as a hobby, or maybe going to exhibitions that involves this kind of sculpture, or maybe crucified stones, those kind of stuff. And also, I think today would be a little bit difficult for people who are left-handed, because this person is utilizing the right side. In this case, it might be a little bit not very sure about people who use the left side. Just remind yourself, oh, it's kind of odd, but it is just because the timing might be not the same as your natural element, which is the right brain. Right brain. Today is more about the left brain, because the left brain controls our right side. Some people might consider removing some problems on the right side. It can be a physical level thing. It can be about your body. For some reason, I think that some people might be able to figure out things that are lacking in their diet. For instance, omega-3. Omega-3 is related to our brain, the power of the brain. I think it will be a very good day to tap into the consciousness about our food, what we need to think clearly, and try to think back in the past times. During what time of your life you ate something routinely, and then you had a different state of mind in those years, which worked better for you, and compare that to the current situation. Where are you eating now? And are you feeling worse than before, or are you feeling better? So it depends from situation to situation. So it's good to compare the the past and the present. When would you consider yourself to be the most reasonable in your own terms? Then figure out the elements that you utilized before, including food, probably also the weather condition, maybe is your AC or is your heat? What is your room temperature? What is the room temperature that makes you feel the most comfortable? The humidity, the climate. Because climate can play a big role in our lives. I mean, when I travel to some places, when it is very dry or maybe very wet, it can create some physical manifestations, and that actually affect our minds. So I will also encourage you to tap into astrocartography. And if you know your birth data, you can go to astro.com, and then maybe you can do it without creating an account. You can just put in your information and then type on the search bar astro travel or maybe astrocartography, and then they will show you that section. And when they show you the section, you can put in your data, and then they will show you the map, and then there are a lot of lines that will show you your energy, how they interact with the land on this earth. So I hope this information will be useful for you, because I find it fascinating. Sometimes we feel so trapped in a situation, in an environment, but then when we figure out that we actually have we have the unique dynamics with the location we are located, and sometimes it might be a good connection, a good dynamics, but quite often maybe we actually need to move away in order to have a new life, new circumstances. So I encourage you to tap into that that information. I probably will try to put a link below, and you can go there and then search for it. But you have to know about your time of birth, your day of birth, and your location of birth. Make sure you put in the right data, right location, the right time zone, so you get the right information. Because if not, you're gonna get a wrong information, which you don't want. So yeah, be aware of what actually can create the intellectual power in our lives, in our situations, and cultivate it, or maybe modify them to work better for us on an intellectual level. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you like the content, please consider subscribing. And I appreciate your time and participation. And I hope you all the best. See you next time.